Presentation topic will be using Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, with Terraform modules. So why am I using Oracle Cloud Infrastructure? I think if you have or you will have some Oracle workloads, then you should consider using OCI, because Oracle at least tries to optimize their software workloads with the Oracle Cloud. Then there's these, I call them licensing benefits. So if you compare this running the same workload or similar instance with AWS or other cloud provider, then when you use OCI, you basically need to license less CPUs with OCI. And having used OCI now for some time, I think it's actually quite nice, and there's some really good concepts what they have added there. And there's a link also for Accenture's performance study with OCI and comparing it to the other cloud vendors. So I wanted to include some of the OCI concepts here as well, not going to drill down to details with these, but just to highlight some of the important concepts. So first of all, there's tenancy, which is basically same as your account, and it contains all of your OCI resources. And then there's compartments. This is really neat concept. So you can create and isolate your resources inside these compartments and then give specific access to users on them. So basically create resources inside compartment or modify some of the existing ones and so on. Then there's VCN, so the private virtual cloud network, where you can then operate your infrastructure. So basically create subnets, and then inside the subnets you can create the instances and so on. Then there's also security lists. So these are basically a virtual firewall for your instances, but you have to remember that the security list is always created at the subnet level. Then there are policies. So with policies you define who can access your OCI resources and how they can access. So like I said, that if they can modify or create resources and so on. And then there are the Oracle Cloud identifiers. So each resource, apart from, I think, from the object storage bucket, has a OCID. So this is always included if you check from the console or from the API. So each resource has this their own OCID, which you can also use through Terraform to manage the resources. So why am I using Terraform? It's basically a orchestration tool to manage your infrastructure as a code, which has also an OCI provider, so you can manage your specific OCI resources with Terraform. And you can make reusable and automated infrastructure with Terraform. And I think this leads to reducing errors and enables you to follow your standards. Basically, if you have some internal standards or you want to follow some other standards, then each resource is always created the same way. And Terraform also records the state of your infrastructure. So when you create some components with Terraform, then it knows that if you want to add some new component, you don't need to recreate the whole infrastructure again. So what about these modules? So modules are important in my opinion, because instead of writing each time your infrastructure from scratch or copying the already done template, Terraform template, you can basically create a project template and then point that template to use some existing templates, which we call modules. So that way you don't only save time, but you always have a standardized way of creating for example, VM shape or network, as it will use the pre-written templates for each operation. And then when you, for example, have a new project, then you can just reuse these templates or modules what you have created. And that will be basically the main point of the demo today, to show how to use the modules. So the file structure I have used in this presentation is that each module is a directory which has 2 files. So the main.tf, this has all the actual code with creating a resource and modifying them if needed. And then there's the outputs.tf. So these are the variables what the module will send out after execution back to the so-called project template. And then there's the project directory, and it has one additional file, so variables.tf, and these are all the specific variables what are used in your project. So basically it looks like this. I have the create network project folder. It has these 3 files which I mentioned earlier. Then there's VCN, which creates the VCN. It has only these 2 files, main.tf and outputs.tf, and then it has the subnets, main.tf and outputs.tf, and then a lot of other modules as well. So these are the module folders. And in the code, here's an example how I call the modules from the create network main.tf. So I just named the module. The module is now named vcn_main. The source is actually the folder at the same level as the create network folder. And then I just pass some variables to the module. So here is an example how I reuse some earlier variable which has been created in this compartment module. So I pass the new compartment ID where we created a compartment. So I pass it to this VCN module. So it knows to create the VCN in this specific compartment. And then these rest of these variables are defined in the create network variables.tf. So I pass them there. So today's demo is quite simple. It will create a user, group, and then a compartment, and inside this compartment we will create the network resources. And the network resources are just the VCN with the public and private subnet, then also internet gateway for the public subnet and route tables for the subnets. And the user which we will create will have access to use the network resources inside the compartments, and a policy also to launch instances, but not a permission to modify network resources in the compartment. And I will show this also after running the Terraform modules, that this is how it works. And in the end I will just redo this for new user or new project, so you can see how I can easily reuse the Terraform modules. So as a preparation, I've done created the Oracle Cloud account. So you can create a free account for 30 days and you get $300 credits there. Yeah. Then I've created the API signing key. There's a link to documentation. And then I've downloaded and installed Terraform and OCI provider in my VirtualBox. And all of these links I'll include in my blog at finishingthoughts.wordpress.com, so you can check the links right from there. Okay, let's get started. First, let's take a look how I've done the code with the Terraform templates. So here you can see all the folders I have for Terraform, and you can see there's two so-called project folders right now, so creating the network and then creating an instance. And all of the other folders here are basically modules. So I have a module, for example, creating users. I have a module creating the subnets and VCN and so on. And now if I look inside the project folder, I have these 3 files here. So if I first look the main.tf, so this is the actual code for the specific for the project. So first I've stated here that the provider is OCI, and I pass these variables, and these variables I've actually set in my pass_profile. So they are preset already. And then I just start calling the modules from the project template. So for example, creating user uses source as the users folder right here, and I pass the username and user description as parameters from my variables.tf. And if I open the variables.tf, these are all the project specific variables what I have defined. So you can see here the username and user description are defined here. And then also variables for the network. So just going back to the main.tf, and I want to show you in the end when I create 2 subnets. So first I create the private subnet, and then I create the public subnet. So you can see basically I call the same folder, but I just pass different variables to the module, so then it creates a different component or different resource with those variables. So here I pass the, for example, the private CIDR block, and for the public subnet I then pass the CIDR block I've defined in my variables for the public subnet. So it's a really good example how to reuse the same module twice. Now I'm logged to my VirtualBox instance, which has the Terraform templates, and I've done the pre-setup for OCI. So installing Terraform and then installing the OCI provider. And if I just look here, I can see all the same folders are here in my virtual instance as I showed in the Visual Studio earlier. So if I now go to the create network, and then I see all the 3 files here, so main.tf, outputs.tf, and variables.tf. And one thing I didn't show earlier is that what's inside the outputs.tf. So after I run the Terraform or created the resources, it will show me the user ID, it will show me the username, and then it will show the user console password, so I can log in then with this created user. So now if I want to create my network, so what I will run is Terraform init, so it will initialize the modules. So here you can see it loads the modules, and then it also gets the OCI provider plugin, and it's now successfully been initialized. And what I will run next is Terraform plan, so it will show what it will do before running it. And right now, yes, we should create 12 resources. We won't change any resources, and we won't destroy any resources. So now the next thing I will run is Terraform apply, and this will then create those 12 resources. I will just confirm it. And now the resources are created. So the VCN, compartment, and the user there. And you can see here the username is developer1, then the user UI password. You can take it from here, and then the OCI is shown here as well. And then it will also show the resources, what you created, if you want to see in more detail. Now let's take a look from the actual console, how it looks there. So next thing I will do is log in with this developer1 user to my tenancy, and then review what I can do there. So now I'm logged to my console. You can see tenancy is my tenancy, and then I'm logged as a developer1 user, which we just created. And the idea was just to show that the user has access to the created compartment and can launch instances, but doesn't have ability to terminate or modify the network resources. So let's take a look. So if I look from the compartments, I can see that the developer1 compartment, which we just created, is here. And if I go to networking resources from the console, I can see that in my developer1 compartment there is a test VCN with the specified seeder block. And if I open the VCN, I can see the resources, but if I want to terminate the resource, the public subnet, okay, I don't have a permission to do that. Or if I want to modify the security list, just editing the rules, and if I would add a rule here with the specific seeder block, just add it and save it. Okay, I'm not authorized to do that either, so that's good. And if I go to compute, I want to create an instance, so I will just select the standard shape and use the Oracle Linux. I won't set any SSH keys. I'll specify my VCN, select the public subnet, and we'll just create instance. And if I wouldn't have a permissions, then I would get a error here that I'm not authorized to do it. And you can see it's already provisioning the instance, so it's assigned a private IP address and then a public address. So everything went fine, and next I will show how to basically reuse the template quickly for another project. And now the instance is already running. Now I'm back on my virtual instance, and I will show how to reuse the project template. So I have the create network template and all the files under this directory. So I will just copy the whole directory, create another network. I will go inside the and I will remove the Terraform files, so they won't be there, so the Terraform will then know it's basically doesn't have any existing resources. So we'll remove it, and now what I will want to do is I want to modify the variables. So these were specific for this project. So for example, I want to use a different VCN seeder block. I want to use different seeder block for the subnets. I want to have a different username because the username isn't compartment specific, and I want to make a different group as well where the user is placed. And of course I want to have a different policy as well to access so the user can access the compartment. So that's it. So those are all the modifications I need if I would basically have a project where I need to create multiple users with their own network resources and so on. I will save it, and again I will run the Terraform init. All good. Terraform plan. Okay, it's ready to run, and then I will run Terraform apply. Will confirm it. And just in a short while we should have the resources created. So again, same 12 resources added, different username, and of course different password than OCI ID for the user. But basically that's it. So this is how easily you can reuse then the modules with just by passing different variables. But now when the demo is done, I will run Terraform destroy. So it will basically destroy these created resources. And again it will ask for confirmation, and then it will destroy those 12 resources we created. And that's basically it. And I will add all the links and some additional links about OCI and Terraform on my blog at finishingthoughts.wordpress.com. So thanks for watching.